Well, you know, it's the stroke of 10 o'clock, and that makes it Woodturners Coffee Hour this morning. Number 111. My name's John Kelsey with Lancaster Woodturners. I hope you like my new logo. Probably one of you owns the piece of wood behind it because I don't know whose piece of wood it is. I just was looking through my pictures, and the color said, "Oh, that's the color you wanted. It looks kind of like coffee," so I stole it. But it's actually the inside bottom of somebody's very nice bowl. So, uh, and I had to relearn how to make the logo transparent so the wood would show through in the globe. So I thought that that took a while. I used to know how to do that stuff really well, but you know, you get old.
No.
Yeah. Um, I hope you all have some stuff to show. I have actually a cue here, and I'm going to go first to show and tell. Of course, I'm going to go first to Dave Delo. Before I do, I should let's see announcements. The next hybrid meeting open forum is Monday night. The next Thursday on Coffee Hour, we'll have Al Sturt as our guest.
Very good. Oh,
And then the Lancaster August meeting, I don't know what the agenda is, but Barry probably does. You have any idea what's on for August?
Not offhand, no.
Yeah, well, something anyway. It will be a hybrid meeting in New Holland. So, and I'm going to go this Saturday with the Zoom cart to the Baltimore picnic at the Boomy Temple in Baltimore, and see if I can do another road show and see how it works. Learning a lot from what I did the Lancaster picnic. So, those are the agenda items coming up. Delo, do you want to go first and show us your lathe? Where are you?
okay, sure, sure. Just highlight me.
I'm going to spotlight you for everybody.
Okay. Share screen. Share. Can you?
We see your screen. We don't see your slides yet. There we go. Can you now
Okay.
make that full screen? Have you got a button?
Yes, I will. Yes, I will. How's that?
Looks
That's
good.
good.
There we go. Okay. Hey, I did show a picture back in May of this machine from the distributor website, but now I've got it in the shop, and I've had about 6 weeks to turn on this, and I don't know. I've done at least 20 different pieces on the lathe, so I got a little experience with it, and just wanted to share some of it. Of why I'm so tickled pink and every other color about the decision to get this particular machine. Okay, not that it's any better than any other machine, but it just suits me well because of my back issues, screws in my neck and lower back condition. So, you know, I had been looking for a way to do my turning in a much more comfortable fashion. And I know that, you know, you can raise your lathe up to a higher height and relieve some of those back issues from leaning over. Or you can turn off the end of the lathe, or you could have a swivel lathe. And I sort of zoomed in onto the swivel idea, as long as that swivel was locked down perfectly. Okay. And so this is the machine. I'll give you a few of the specs, and then I got some other slides to show you. But it's 19 and a quarter inches swing. So that's kind of a strange number. You know, we're usually dealing with even numbers, but so it's got enough swing to do any of the bigger pieces that I want to. Okay, but it's a nice, short, compact machine. You get 23 inches of usable space between tailstock centers, and you know, I'm a bowl guy. A vase person, hollow forms. Okay, so I don't need a long lathe. It just makes wanting to turn off the end of the lathe. You just have to move that headstock further and further. So this is a nice compact unit. Like I say, 23 inches. No controls on the headstock. Everything's out of the pendant. So you got the green button is the start, and the red's the stop. The black one is the reverse. And then you've got your speed control dial. Okay, and this is on a magnet, and I can move that anywhere along the machine that I want. Okay, it also has.
Dave, is that banjo long enough to engage when you're swiveled like that?
Yeah. Oh, no. You don't use the tailstock, or cannot use the tailstock.
I mean the tool rest.
Oh yes, and I've got a solution that I'll show you here in just a few minutes. Okay.
Cool.
It also, you can stop it with the red button, or you can do the knee kick here, the red bar coming across here. I didn't know how much I would like it, but I'll tell you the truth. I probably use that knee kick at least half of the time to actually stop the machine. Okay. And so I kind of like that feature.
Is that part of the machine, or is that the cabinet?
That's part of the cabinet. Okay. The controls are behind this wall in the stand here. Okay. And then there's an open door here where you can get access to it. Okay. So it's a three-step pulley arrangement. I have my 1-to-1, 1-to-2, and 1-to-3. I have mine on the 1-to-3, which gives you 10 RPMs to 1200. I'll probably never take it off of that. Then you've got the spindle lock, full-size hand wheel, which is nice. And then this black thing here is a safety lock for what if you wanted to lock your chuck into reverse. Okay, and not have it come spinning off. I don't know that I'll ever use that, but there's a little bit better view of the backside, full-size hand wheel. A little better look at the spindle lock, and then it has this little spy hole here for the indexing. Kind of short on the number of it. There's only 24 on the indexing, so you can. But I have an Alisam disc, so if I want to use that, I can. Then we'll do a short video. Lock the handle. And get it dirty. And now we're set at 30 degrees. A little bit of topside view of what it looks like at 30 degrees. Then I can move it over to 60 degrees or at 90 degrees. Okay.
Do they have stops at those places?
Yes. They're just like in the video there. There's three different holes, and 30, 60, and 90. So this is a different picture from their website. On the if you're doing 90 degrees, then you need to do an outrigger there. And I don't know that I didn't get this. I don't know that I'll ever do that. I think if I ever did, I'd probably look for an old Powermatic type, tripod type, so that I could move it out of the way. I just think that would be in the way. Give you an idea, an end view of the stand. It's got a nice splay to it. The legs are independently adjustable, and it really sits on the floor nice in that these feet here are like over 7 inches long. So it gives a good solid support there. A little bit better view of the overall machine. I did get the, as you can see, the bed extension with the swing away, and this just swings away parallel to the bed. It doesn't drop out of the way, okay? And interesting, the way it locks back into place is you got this key, fits in the keyway here.
That's good.
And then there's this threaded hole, and I'll show you when you swing it back into place, you've got this lever with a ear sticking out here. That locks it pretty tight. But if you're wanting to use this as a bed extension and use the tailstock out here, that threaded hole locks the tailstock into the base of the machine. So it's just like, it's rock solid. Okay.
Would you swing that out with the tailstock mounted on it? Would it handle that?
Oh yes. Oh yeah. And I've got a picture of that in just a moment also. Now these are the tool. This is a tool rest. Comes with a 12-inch, but the post on it is a 30 millimeter. It's substantial, and so I really like this. This is by far my favorite tool rest that I've ever used. But then as an option, I got this other tool rest, and this will explain to you, John. This is an offset tool rest, so I probably should have taken the 12-inch out of the way so you could see it, but it's 8 inches to the left and 10 inches to the right. So just a nice closer view of the pendant. This is a feature that I really like. This slow speed, it'll go down to, they say 10, but mine reads out at 11. So I think I'll keep it. I'm not going to return it because it doesn't go to 10. Okay. But it comes with a faceplate wrench, and a live center dog, and then the knockout bar that I put a sphere that I turned on the end of it.
How long did it take you to get it after you ordered it?
5 days.
Nice. So they're in stock in this country.
Well, this was bought from the Canadian distributor. Nobody else in America brings this particular machine. Craft Supply sells the VL300, which is a 3 horsepower, 24-inch swing. Okay. But nobody's bringing in the, since Woodworkers Emporium went out, nobody's bringing it in. So he had this in stock, and it was ready to deliver. So this is an adapter to the 30 millimeter, so I can use all my other robust tool rests that I ever want to use. Okay, on the machine. Maybe I haven't discovered it yet, but a little bit short on the quill travel on the tailstock. It's only a little over 3 inches, but I haven't found anything where that current.
Hang on a second, Dave. We've got somebody making a lot of noise, and I don't know who it is. If I could find them, unmute them. So if you who are doing it know who you are, please mute yourself.
So, like I said, I've done maybe 20 pieces, a little bit more than that. I've done a number of medium size, larger size. I've done it parallel to the bedways, and also tilted. So just to give you an idea, give you an idea of the experience I have with the machine. This is a little bit bigger piece. This is like 16 inches in diameter. I finished off some pieces.
I have a question, Dave.
Yeah.
A quick question. 2 questions. One, is the thread? Did you have to get an adapter to make it like a 1 by 8, 1 inch or 1 1/4 by 8 inch thread for your chucks and stuff like that?
No, this is one. My bad.
It comes that way.
It's an 1 1/4 by 8.
It does come that way. Okay.
Yes. Yes.
And the second one, I'm assuming the Morris tapers is the number 2 Morris taper on the tailstock. Is that correct?
On both the headstock and tailstock. Yes.
Thank you.
So I've cored with it. I've hollowed with it. There you can see the John, the tailstock is on the
I see
extension swung out of the way.
Yeah.
Okay.
Huh.
And so I've done it every which way except for one until I did a piece. I wanted to do one that was entirely on the 30-degree angle from beginning to end. Okay. So this was one of the, I had done a bunch of sycamore crotches, and I had 7 or 8 of them already done. And this was my last wet piece of wood. So I decided just to scratch the crotch piece and just do a regular bowl out of it. This was 12 inches, nothing fantastic, but big enough to put it through its paces.
Nice.
So I take off the corners with the chainsaw, put it on the faceplate ring, and then put it on the machine. And that's the last it'll be at 90 degrees until I take the foot off. So we're going to start here. I started out with this 12-inch tool rest, and then here's your offset. Once with the 12-inch rest, I was starting to get out towards the end of that rest at this point here. I could have finished, but I just didn't want to run off the end of it. So I stuck this one on and had no problems at all. So this is really a slick idea. So just continuing to finish off the bowl, and always something has to go wrong. I broke off 2 of the screws, taking the faceplate off, so I had to dig those out, and just finishing off the bowl. There's my trusty little expensive depth gauge there, and put it on the vacuum chuck and finish off the bottom. And then Don King, you know, the famous boxing promoter, he used to have this saying called only in America. Okay, so only in America could you be so darn lazy that you had to sit down to do your sanding. Okay, so this is really, really slick with the head turn. It's kind of hard to get a little perspective here, but
No,
my face is.
we see what's going on. That's very cool.
Yeah, my face is 6 inches away. So if there's any tool marks there or sanding scratch, I see them, and I'm not bent over. So this is all about posture for me and comfort. Okay, so this is the last slide, and this is one thing I didn't anticipate. I kind of thought of it, but I really didn't concern myself with it. I have drapes that prevent, you know, the shavings from getting all over the shop. But when you turn that head 30 degrees, the trajectory of the chips that you're generating go in a different direction. So I've messed up my grinding station with all kinds of debris, and so I got to fix that with another drape. But anyway, that's it.
Okay, end your slideshow, or I will.
Okay, go ahead, John. You do it.
I think I can.
Or I can just.
There, gotcha. Gotcha.
There we go.
Okay, and I'm going to take the spotlight off you, and let's get for questions. Oh, you got the bowl. I'm going to put the here. You're on.
Yeah, that's the bowl. The bowl I did. You know, remember Ernie and Dave Hout? They were talking about just, you know, turn the bowl and let it go.
Yeah.
You know, no anchor seal, no anything. But this is the way. This one warped about, this sycamore about 3/4 of an inch.
Let's see the bottom of it. Okay, now hold it up so we can see the silhouette. Hold it sideways. Yep. Good. Okay, we can see the warp in there. We can see where the pith of the tree was. Yep. Questions for Dave?
I'd like to make an observation, if I may.
Sure.
I noticed, Dave, when you were turning your bowl and your tailstock was still on the lathe, you had your live center in it. May I make a suggestion? You always remove that, because we had a demonstrator who left it in and ended up in the hospital with 14 stitches where he'd gone back and caught that live center. I noticed it was still in your tailstock. The live center?
The point of it?
Yeah.
Understood.
Yep.
I've made that mistake a bunch of times. I've got a permanent scar in my elbow from doing that many, many years ago. Yeah, you only have to do that once. You'll never do it again.
That's right.
Yeah, I had that, worried about that. So what I did is I took a golf ball and I drilled the golf ball out, what is it, 3/4, and threaded it onto the point. And then I drilled a hole through the golf ball and tied a string on it. So it hangs on my tailstock with a long enough loop that every time I take the tail, or not using the tailstock, I swing the golf ball up and jam it on the end of the tailstock. So and I have bumped my elbow against the golf ball. If I wouldn't have had it on there, I'm sure I'd have had stitches.
Yeah.
It's just a safety thing because
Absolutely, yeah.
it's
And
something
I've done
you
the
don't
same
think
thing.
about.
Put the golf ball on it.
Yeah.
I learned that from Bert.
Yeah.
I learned lots of stuff from Bert.
Okay. Any more questions for Dave or comments for Dave?
Yeah, here's another idea. Instead of the golf ball, just a little kind of cup thing turned from wood that I can put onto the live center. Oh, no, in this picture. Okay,
That's
so that
good
looks
too.
pretty nice as well. And I can also made it flat here, so I can also use it to support bowl bottoms or something like that.
Yeah.
So that's very useful.
My problem with my wooden, I've got a whole bunch of those wooden ones, but they end up in a box, and then when I need them, I can never find them. The golf ball's got a string through it, so it never goes anywhere but on the handle. It's always there.
I can put a string on his
And it's a
too.
conversation piece when people come to the shop and they're looking at my lathe and they're like, what the hell's a golf ball doing on your lathe?
You could try a magnet too. You wouldn't need a string then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dave.
Yeah,
Dave,
yeah.
you made a mention about a tripod tool rest support,
Yeah.
and they sit on the floor, and in all I thought they were a great idea. So on my bowl lathe, I got one, and because I hold my wrench or chisel in a low angle coming up to the cutting, when I got a catch, that angle was enough to drive the tool rest into the work.
Ouch.
And the outcome was not pleasant. And so from that reason on, I will not use a tripod tool rest unless it is mounted to the machine as a guide, so that it doesn't move.
Understood. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah, the Vicmarc outboard tool rest is anchored to the frame, either on the 300 or the 250. It's actually physically bolted to the frame, which is, it helps with that.
Well, just one last comment from my side is the machine, as far as this swivel head idea, I can really tell the difference in my back about after 2 or 3 hours at the lathe. It does make a difference, and I'm ecstatic. I'm very, very happy.
Very cool.
I have one little question. How noisy is the motor?
Whisper, quiet.
Ah,
Whisper. Yeah.
that's great.
You get more noise from the fan of the VFD than you do from the motor, and you can barely hear the fan in the VFD. They're really quiet. Vicmarc did it right.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering.
Very cool.
Dave, you may have mentioned this and I may have missed it, but what lathe were you using before you got this Vicmarc?
I've had my first big lathe was a Powermatic 3520B. Okay, through some health issues, I got rid of it, and then went with the Grizzly G0766, which I still have, and I have no complaints with that machine. Other than I have to bend over, lean over a little bit. Okay, so I don't know what I'm going to do. I may sell it. I may keep it, but it's sitting here, and so that's where I'm at right now.
Great, thank you. Excellent overview.
Thank you, everybody. Yeah, that was a good show. I am going to move us along, however, because there are a bunch more guys with their hands up, and that was. And I'll probably will extract that, Dave, as a separate video, like I like to do. Okay, I'm going to go through the queue in order now. Barry, you're on next. You there?
Yeah, that's a tough act to follow with that lathe there. But last week I had asked people about making corn cob, for corn on the cob, and I go ahead and I'm not sure what kind of wood it is. It looks like either like a Brazilian cherry or maybe some kind of rosewood. It's just a board that I was given. Anyhow, what I wound up using was 15 gauge stainless steel nails that I had removed the chisel tip by rounding it out. And it's a piece of 1/2-inch stainless steel seamless tubing that they're embedded in. So
but they're in the wood, right? They're not soldered to the tube or anything like that.
No, they are just run about 5/8 of an inch into the wood. It turns out that 15 gauge is theoretically a little bit smaller than a 1/16 of an inch, but a 1/16 of an inch hole was very tight on drilling them. And then I had put some CA glue down the hole before putting the nail in. And between the natural friction and the CA glue, hopefully it'll withstand the friction of corn cob and not come out in the ear of corn on me.
Well, I guess you'll find out, or I will.
Yeah.
Very cool. Questions for Barry? Okay. That's it for you today?
Yep.
Okay. Jeff Carroll, how about you?
Morning. A couple of weeks ago, the club we belong to in Wilmington called, and they had a young guy that wanted them to build a Kendama Sword, which is this part. So none of them had turned kendamas, so we got together, a few of us, and went to figure out how to turn kendamas. And this is the end result. It was the first thing we turned was the sphere. Then we turned the sword. And then the cups. There's a big cup, a smaller cup, and an end cup, and then the spear. There's doing it correctly, they catch them on all the cups and the spear. I am not that coordinated. I've got my grandson here who's a little more coordinated than I am.
What's your grandson's name?
Pierce.
Pierce?
Yeah.
It's nice to meet you.
I can't do a bit and show him how it works.
Whoa. Huh? Fabulous. He's going to be a star, that boy.
We've had a lot of fun playing with them. I have 4 grandkids that live close by, and they all are taking turns with it. So I had bought a store-bought one just to get the dimensions off of it before we turned them. And I had that one. Bring that one here, Pierce. And that was basically the same thing, just a painted spear. But
where'd you find that? Where'd you find a store-bought one?
I bought it on Amazon. I think this one was on sale that day for like $14.99 or whatever. The brand of it is Sweets, but it was basically the same type thing. We had that one, and the kids were playing with that, and they were like, "Pop, you got to go ahead and finish yours so we'll have another one." So now there's 2 of them in the mix, and they're having a big time with them.
Any questions for Jeff?
Yeah, that's a neat little project. Is the top supposed to come off like that? I see you adjusting it all the time.
Yes, I mean, the way it's made, it comes apart. It's just a friction string and the taper on the sword hold it on. So it's not permanently glued. And you can also, that's where you change the strings out. I did buy some strings, replacement strings. There's a bead that comes with the string to keep the ball spinning on it and not tying up the strings. So if you pull up some of the videos on these kids that are really good at it, they've spent a lot of time practicing.
Yeah, I'm sure they do. Any other questions for Jeff?
Yeah, I just got a comment here. It's a great project in holding techniques. I did one from just a picture before. I've got 2 or 3 articles I've downloaded on it. This was about 10 years ago. But it's a really, really, it's a difficult project, but lots of different approaches to holding, because you got ends that are finished and you got to be able to hold it to do the other end. It's a real puzzler.
It's a different turn and a different experience on hand and eye coordination.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I wouldn't want to be making them for $14.99, I'll tell you.
No, I don't think. Yeah, one of the guys said you could probably sell these. I said, I don't think I could get my money out of them.
No,
Put a zero behind it. Yeah.
Not a chance. Any other questions or comments? Well, thank you very much, Jeff. Nice show.
Thank you.
Nice work. Carroll.
Yes. All right. I'm having bandwidth problems this morning, so we don't know for sure this is going to work, but we'll give it a try. I want to show you, Bert had a background on one day that had a spinning wheel in it, or several of them. Oh. And this is one that I repaired. I did not build this entire thing. A friend had the wheel and asked me to make a stand for him. So that's what I ended up doing a number of years ago. So it's nothing new.
Did you see it in operation? Did the spinner come along and use it?
No. But however, I do have my great grandmother's regular size wheel, and my wife has used it a number of times, and her and a number of her friends got together and they used to spin. So just as we get together to talk about wood turning, where she would get together and they would spin different fabrics or different materials.
Any questions for Carroll?
I noticed that several people commented on Bert's spinning wheel, that quite a number of us have had some experience with spinning wheels.
I know Ernie's made quite a few. He's not with us today. He's got a paying student, so he had to do that.
On your great grandmother's spinning wheel, is it does it have like the spinning part? Is it a spindle like the walking wheel, or is it a conventional with a flywheel or fly?
Conventional.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I've been looking at some pictures of some of the really, really original smaller spinning wheels, and they're built just like the walking wheel, where it's got that 90-degree spindle. And I've been toying with the idea of converting. And I've got an 1800s conventional spinning wheel, but I was going to make another Maidenhead with the spike spindle on it, so that people can practice a little bit of drop spindling on the side or walking wheel without quite having to walk so far. Lots of fun.
I noticed you're in the background. You have an old lathe there. Looks like a Delta or something.
Yes, I still have that lathe. That was a number of years ago before I redid my shop, but I still have that. That was one of my first lathes.
That was my first lathe also. And I actually converted, I put a treadmill motor on it with variable speed, and that's what I used for about 2 years. I still have it also.
Actually, I have 2 of those now, but
That's what I learned on as one of those at school. You know.
That's where mine came from. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mine too.
Okay, let me see. I got to get back to my tools here. Remove all spotlights. Any other questions for Carroll? Okay. Let me see who's next. Bert, you got your hand up. You had the floor. You want to keep?
You betcha. If I can share my screen.
Sure.
I will do this one here. And can you see that?
We can. I can. Everybody else, can you see that?
It should be a picture of a ball sitting in the lathe.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So I got a request. It was kind of a short notice. A lady lost her son early in the spring, but they're having another ceremony here next Wednesday, as a matter of fact. And she apparently her son was a basketball fan or a player, and he lived everything he liked to do involved on basketball. So she wanted an urn in the shape of a basketball, and I started with a log, cut it in half, and put a chuck or a chucking point on each end, and hollowed it out. So put the ball back together. So that's about 10 inches in diameter. It's got an 8-inch inside hollow. I made the base, it's integral to the ball, so I tried to make it look like the ball just kind of sits on a base. I mean, it's solid. When I was turning it, the center of the log, as we always find out, that sometimes this is a birch log. The wood on the inside of the log wasn't as good as it should have been, and so it broke out on one end. So I had to put a plug in, build another plug to put in it. I almost lost the whole piece because when I was holding it with that end, when I was trying to fix and drill the hole for the urn closure, and that's about 4.5, 5 inches in diameter, that broke out of the bottom of the ball. So I had to get creative and put in another piece of wood and turn it round. So I ended up salvaging the bowl or the ball.
Hold on a second, Bert. Yeah, that was a birch log, like locally cut where you live?
Yeah. Yeah.
What other species can you get locally besides birch? Maybe some maple?
Manitoba maple, hawthorn, spruce and pine, of course, lots of that.
Any fruit? Any apple? Any apple? Any cherry? Any pear?
Not too much apple, and any of the apple we get here, as soon as you cut it down, it splits like crazy. So it moves way too much to get anything of any size. It's Manitoba maple is probably the most common, and willow. But willow tends to rot in the center right away. So laurel leaf willow is a really nice big tree, but the pits are always really, really garbage, almost like the birch. The birch goes bad really quick.
Okay, thank you.
Anyway, this is the actual closure for the thing. I thread the ends of my urns. So the one piece is the plug, and the bottom it's threaded, and that's a little tool I had to make so we could turn it in by hand. There's the basically the finished turned. It's just a ball. I put some dye on it because she wanted it to look orange, so I dyed it orange, but it didn't look very good. But yeah, I tried it. So that's what it's going to look like when it's sitting on its base. I put it back on the lathe and painted it orange and painted the base black. Then I painted on some stripes to make it look like a ball, and then I engraved the individual's name and birth date and death date on the side of it. And there's the ball upside down with the closure, threaded closure, sitting there ready to be put on. And the jig behind it is the volumetric calibrator. So I fill the urn with plastic pellets right up to the top, and then I dump the urn into this calibrator, and on this one here you can see it's got 250 cubic inches of volume available in the urn.
So is that, do you make a lot of urns, in other words? I didn't realize that.
Yeah, I've made quite a few, basically on as people ask for them. I've got a couple in stock, but most of the time it's somebody will call and I'll just make one as one need.
So what's the marker there? What volume does one want for an adult urn?
The typical is a 1 cubic inch per pound. So this thing here is every one of these lines on this calibrator is 1 inch, and it's 5 by 5. So every inch of these is 25 cubic inches. And I just marked them all off. So this right now, there's a little black mark there, but that's at 225, I think. You might be able to see, I don't know if can you see that the beads are in there up to the next line?
Yes, we can see that.
That's exactly 250 cubic inches. And
I'm just surprised that you do enough of these to have gone to the trouble to make a calibrator.
Well, it's funny. I've used the calibrator for several different things, even like cookie tins. Or you make a wooden box, and people will say, "Well, how much will it hold?" Well, so I made a lot of staved boxes, and now I can tell exactly how much each one of those boxes will hold. So, and I mean, it's simple to do. So once you got one, I built it, I don't know how many years ago, and I just never throw it away because it just works. Whenever you need to figure out a volume, you don't have to calculate anymore. You just do it physically, and you know exactly what it is.
I just fill them up with water and dump the water out, and then pour the water through measuring cups till I know.
Oh, there you go. Well, that's one way to do it. Some people are using sand, some people are using rice. I thought, rice could rot, sand could get lumpy, and it's dirty, and it gets on the wood. And then I seen these pellets. I think it cost me $20 for this 5-gallon bucket full of pellets. And I thought, hey, this works. And I also had to make some beanbag games for my grandkids. So I just got the pellets and made the beanbag games, and I had all this extra pellets, and I thought, well, hell, this works perfect because it doesn't get wet. And if it does, it doesn't hurt it. Simple, easy to clean up.
I just dump the water in and dump it out quick, and it raises the grain as a byproduct. So I'm good to sand that piece from then on.
Yeah. And anyway, there's the plug, and the plug is just threaded into the bottom of the. I had to make a maple ring, so the I don't know if you can see the first little bead on the base is maple, and then the other part of the black that's right on the ball, that's birch. That's part of the log. So I had to make the maple threaded insert and glue it onto the bottom of the ball base, and then made the matching threaded plug. And then once I had the plug in there, I had to have some way of screwing it in and out. So I was making a bunch of buttons here for a school a few years back, and I had 2-hole buttons, 3-hole buttons, and 4-hole buttons. So I just took one of my button blanks and put some 1/4-inch dowels in it, and away we go. Loves your uncle. And it turned out. That's it.
Wow. Questions for Bert? Okay, I'm going to pull the spotlight off you.
No questions.
Go ahead.
Those threads are store-bought, or you chase them yourself?
I turn them myself. I've got a jig. I got the threading jig from Chefware Kits. I do a lot of threading. I thread a lot of small boxes, and I've had other woodturners come over, and I think Stu's on today. We did a couple of projects for him where he had a lidded box that he wanted threaded, so we brought it over and we set it up and threaded it. It's really a handy tool. I don't chase threads by hand. I just don't have the coordination for that. But I sure love that threading tool. It does a great job.
Other questions for Bert? Okay. All right. I'm impressed with the urn, but I'm going to move on to Duxbury now because it's his turn. And then Don Smith.
Sure, I'll impress you.
You're on.
I've been doing offset turning. This is a bud vase that's turned on 9 centers. There's 2 kinds of offsets. One has a center on one end, and you offset the other end. And the other one is like a crankshaft. You offset both ends. This was a center on this end, and then 8 centers on this end. So as you turn this, you get the development of the.
So wait a minute, those aren't little discs all glued together. That's one piece.
That'd be easier, you know that?
Yeah.
No, this is one piece. And the center's on this end, and then there's eight different centers on this end. But each one of these is turned separately on a different center.
And so that's like a test tube bud vase thing in the middle.
Yeah, there's a test tube in the middle here. And then I made another one.
Did you pour the hole first or after?
First. This one is turned like a crankshaft with the offsets on both ends. This is 9 centers, and it's turned like a crankshaft that where the whole piece is flying around, rather than just the end.
Is how many did you make to get one that stayed together?
This is it. This is. I'll tell you, this is the first. My wife's getting really good at wood turning, and we're doing a class at John Campbell Folk School, and we're going to do offset turning for a week. And this is a crankshaft. They made a crankshaft a while ago. This is actually a 1-inch stroke. I'll build the rest of the engine someday, but not today. But we're going to do offset turning, all kinds of offset turning, the end of next month. And she loves it. She's just really good at it. But
so that's 1 week at the John Campbell is in Tennessee, isn't it?
No, in North Carolina, right at the westernmost tip of North Carolina.
And what's a week consist of? What day to what day?
Oh, Lord. She'll find that out. But
okay. Well, what I mean, can people stay on the campus there, or do you have to stay in town? What's the deal?
Oh yeah, you stay on campus. They have good food. They have a great turning studio. It's like Airmont, similar to Airmont. In fact, we're doing Airmont in October, I think. But this is the first. My wife's getting really good, and so we're co-instructing. I do really good with that, except she hides the tools every now and then, and you have a heck of a time. But anyway, it'll be all on offsets, and it's a first for me too, because I haven't taught out there. I've never taught at John Campbell, but it's in Brasstown, North Carolina, which North Carolina keeps getting smaller as you go west. Right at the tip, in the middle of nowhere, is Brasstown, North Carolina. You could shoot sparrows with a high-powered rifle and nobody would care. Okay, it's just the middle of nowhere, but great place to have a folk school. Should be interesting. Just that I try.
Very cool stuff. You could make spiral staircases for model houses and things by that time.
Oh, you could do all kinds of things with this, yeah. And you turn each one, and to tell you the truth, you asked me if I drill it first. I drill it because I turn it to the depth, the width of that opening. So each one of these is turned to that width. So that's kind of your depth gauge.
Right. Very interesting. And does it go like bumpa as you turn it, or have you got it to smooth out? A lot of
bumpa.
Questions for Dux?
What speed do you turn at?
As fast as I can go. When the lathe starts walking across the room, I turn it down about 4 RPM.
Yeah, okay.
And, as fast as you can go, because that takes the air out. You know, you get more of a feeling of the cut.
Well, would that be as fast as you could go, and a thing like that would be 600, 1200, 1800? What kind of thing are we talking about?
Probably about 800 on a Powermatic.
Okay. A very heavy machine.
I used to turn these on a Shopsmith, and that's really funny because I had a 2x4 frame, so the thing wouldn't walk into the wall. Okay, it would come up against this frame and quit walking around the room.
Yeah.
So anyway.
So can I ask a question? Is bumper to now the new term for how fast you run your lathe?
Yeah. Sometimes you can go through the harmonic of it and go faster, but I never tried that on this. This is too much.
Well, at some point your cast iron's going to break, so you got to little care here. Yeah.
All right, Jim, do you turn the 2 outer ones first and work your way toward the middle? Or how do you preserve stiffness as you're turning it?
There's quite a bit of wood left here. At any point, there's I can't tell how much it is, but there's quite a bit of wood left at each section. So it's not quite as thin as you think it is. On the one that this has a center point on the end, and then 8 center points on this end. So this is turning like this. So the outer one, you can see the outer one has more of an angle. When you start getting towards the lower one, it becomes, I turn this from the top down because the lower one is a smaller diameter because you're out here. There's not as much offset on that one.
Yeah, you want to keep the meat to the tail, to the headstock.
Yeah. Yes. So you turn this whole part first and work your way down.
And you don't consider putting like a wooden mandrel down the center where the test tube currently is?
There's no center or anything to hold it. It would just be flopping around in there. No, that, in fact, it brings back memories. That does, you would think that would work, but the wooden mandrel, as you turn this thing and you make a cut, turns that mandrel. So you're not cutting the mandrel. You get a bounce off of that. If you glued it in or I don't know, somehow put tape on it or something to cut the mandrel, you could do that. But if you just leave something in there, it'll roll. And when you come to the point where you should be cutting wood, it'll bump off of that. It'll throw the tool up in the air.
Yeah.
So which end is being held on the chalk? Which is the headstock end and which is the tailstock end?
This is the headstock end here.
Okay, yeah.
And this is the tailstock. So this is offset like this.
Yeah.
Yes, you want
to. On this other one, you're turning between 2 centers. So this whole thing is flopping around. Anyway.
Very cool.
Lots of fun.
Any more questions on that? I'm going to give the remaining of the hour to Dawn, if not. Okay. Dawn, are you ready with your slideshow?
Yeah, I'll have a go. Here we go.
All right.
There's the flowers that I make, and that's the finished object. And just to show you how I go about them, as you can see, it's a double flower with a outer and a inner. I start off with 4 pieces of wood, numbered 1, 2, 3, and 4. That's important for later on. As you can see, the grain is going the same way. And I glue them together by using newspaper. Hey. Hello. Using newspaper. As you can see, that one's already paired up. These 2 will be done, and then they will be glued as so. I then put a chucking ring on so that the screws are in some waste wood. And you can see the shape of my inner part of the leaf, which is going to be the inside. And there it is on the chuck and on the lathe. That's the shape of the leaf. And of course, that's the inside at the moment. I sand and polish it, and I give it a bit of yellow dye on the inside. I split it using an old carving knife. And once they're all split, I re-glue them by making certain that the numbers 1, 2, 3, and 4 go in the opposite corner. So 1 should appear here, 2 will appear here, and then 3 and 4 as you go around the circle, so that you put them back in the same way that you started your original piece. There's the piece all glued up, waiting to be turned. I'm now turning a spigot on the back by putting the flower that you saw against a drive center so that I can put a spigot on. And there we are reversed. I'm now going to shape the outside of the flower to that curve there. And there's the piece turned.
Very clever.
And then I reverse it to remove and make the base of the flower. And there she is, sanded and just polished. I do exactly the same with the centerpiece. I've done the 4 pieces, I've glued them, I've shaped it to the inside. Now that's the inside of the flower again. A template so that I can follow nicely. Again, the same thing, we've turned it, we're about to sand it, and we then assemble it by drilling a hole through both pieces and using a garden straw type piece that you can buy for putting in pot plants. I hammer the top off with a hammer and paint that yellow before pulling it down through the flower and gluing it together. And there is
what is that thing? What is that thing again that you're hammering into the middle?
It's just one of these stems that you buy in garden centres that you put to hold pot plants, where you got the pot, you put it into the pot plant. It's like a cane, but it's I'm not quite certain what the timber is, but over here we buy them in packs of 20 and they're painted green. They're about 18 inches long, so that when you've got a pot plant that's tall, you've got a small stem that goes in the pot to hold the plant. As you can see on this one here, it's not only just 2 different woods, there is a 3rd wood in the middle of that flower there, if you can see that. So that's all the 4 different types of flowers that I make, and that's my back garden with the roses in the background.
That's very clever.
And one last thing is another object I've done, which I can talk about later on, is, I don't know what napkins, you call them napkins in the States?
Sure.
Serviettes.
Yeah, napkin tree.
Takes 12 serviettes.
Would you call that a napkin tree?
They are napkin tree.
Very nice project. Questions for Don?
The serviettes go through these slots, and where they're folded into a triangle, the base of it sits inside this little cup, so they're held up, as you can see. On the table, you've got your dozen serviettes whenever you want them.
Very clever.
So
hey, Don, have you got a drawing of that with dimensions? I mean, I could probably figure it out by looking at it, but have you got a sketch or something on that?
Yeah, I'll sort it out, and I'll get it to John, and he can put it on the website.
Oh, that'd be perfect. I'd love to make one of those. I have 2 or 3 people I know that would just love something like that, because they're it's made of wood and they love natural products, and it's always a challenge when you've got a bunch of kids and everything around the table, and you got a pile of napkins on the table, and one picks one up and the wind blows and they're all over the bloody yard. So something like that would be perfect.
Yeah. No, I'll sort that out. I've got it somewhere tucked away in all my other drawings that I make, and see what I can do for you, Bert.
Thank you kindly, Don. I'll really appreciate that.
No problem. Any other questions, gentlemen? Couldn't have been that perfect.
They're just impressed, so impressed they're blown away to silence.
Yeah, sounds like it.
I've seen a lot of pretty crummy flowers that people have turned, but those are pretty nice.
Well, there is another flower that I do, and if you do, 1 second.
It's about all you got. We're almost on the hour. What a treat this fellow is.
Now,
nice.
Those are nice, yeah.
Any ideas? I can quickly go through it.
You got to do it pretty fast.
Yeah, there's a wet branch, hot seasoned. You put it in your lathe, and with your skew, you just turn the bark off, and with the skew, you dive into it to make all these pieces, and then just center it off, turn the back, cocktail stick, and you've got a flower.
Yeah. There's a lot of variations like that people have done as well, where you basically abuse the wood so that it turns into, yeah, splinters. Nice. Good tricks. Well, you guys.
It keeps people occupied. If you're doing something like that at a craft fair or something, they're intrigued by the what you're doing.
I think Ken Vasco made a bunch of little flowers like that he showed us last May at the club challenge was flowers, I believe. I believe they had a group of flowers like that. They were really pretty cute. Well, gentlemen, we've come to the end of another hour. Thank you all.
I colored mine with marker.
With marker? When you color, like where, at what point?
As soon as you get the flower formed, then you would just go ahead and put your marker on it as it's turning. And you can do blending, and it really comes out pretty nice.
Very good.
I use alcohol-based aniline dyes, and I've got them in a little jar, and I just take the whole flower, put the stick in, and just dunk the flower in the dye, and then let it dry, and then 2 or 3 days later, go and dip it into another color. And yeah, your imagination runs wild. I love it. I bought the tool from Germany. It's called Sharp and Smooth. They've got a skew with a hook built in, ground in on one side, and it works beautiful for cutting those wet branch flowers.
Maybe you want to bring that in and show us that tool. I can't quite follow.
I'll bring it next time. Next week, I'll take a few pictures of it. I'll have some pictures of the shop for next week.
Very cool. And thank you all. We'll see you all next week when we'll have a nice interview with Al Sturt with a slideshow that Ernie's going to curate. Yeah.
Thanks, everyone. We'll see you all next week.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll see you guys.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Don. Thank you, John. Thank you, everybody. Yep. All right. Bye.
Don. Good job, Don. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, John.
Wood shop. Thank God for wood.